Breaking news from the 2020 campaign trail today. Senator Bernie Sanders unveiling an income equality tax plan. Among the headlines, he's proposing to raise taxes on companies with what he calls, quote, exorbitant pay gaps between their executives and workers. It would impose tax rate increases on companies with CEOs who are paid 50 times more than their median worker's salary. His campaign says this plan will raise an estimated $150 billion over the next decade. It follows his wealth tax plan, which he released last week. And interestingly, $150 billion raised from this would seem to pale in comparison to the $4+ trillion that he would be looking to raise from the wealth tax. But for more on this announcement and some additional thoughts, let's bring back Jared Bernstein, former economist of Vice President Biden, now a senior fellow at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, and Dan Clifton, Strategas Research Partners, head of policy research. At first blush, Jared, Dan, who wants to raise their hand to go first with some thoughts on this plan?
Jared? Okay. Well, first of all, I think Jared. You guys, if I may, let me just say you guys are exemplary journalists, so let's get that out of the way. This is a reaction to, as you said, a ratio of CEO pay to worker pay that is close to all-time highs. And rather than try to target, this narrow slice of the problem, I would probably advocate for more broad progressivity in the tax code of the type we were talking about in our earlier segment. I think it can be a little tricky when you try to go surgical with the tax code. So I'd bump the corporate tax rate up more broadly. I'd certainly make the income tax more progressive. And as I said in our earlier segment, I'd go after wealth. I tend to like the broader base approaches to pushing back on the inequality problem than the more surgical attacks.
I would say that there's a difference between campaigning and governing. And from a campaign theme, it fits very well in this theme that we were talking about, income inequality, CEO pay. I think as a practical aspect, it would be very difficult to implement. Just looking at it, where do you get the CEO disclosures? Those are publicly traded companies. Does this force more companies then to go private, take them out of capital markets if something like this went through?
Well, Dan, if you had a Democratic administration and a Democratic SEC, then ostensibly they could demand that CEOs disclose that ratio.
No doubt about it, right? And so here you are now, again, changing the rules. But that gets to your point. This is only $150 billion, Kayla. It seems that he's throwing this on top of all his other tax proposals, which means it's not a significant source of funding. It is logistically difficult to do. And I think you'll see more likely if Congress went all Democrat, you would see changes to the broader progressivity of the tax code than a change like this.
Jared, what would $150 billion get you when you look at all of the various policy proposals that Senator Sanders is trying to pay for? It wouldn't seem to get you much.
You're absolutely right. Of course. I mean, a fraction of a percent. I get that. But I like this idea. I don't want to lose this thing you just said, which is trying to pay for. You can cast all kinds of aspersions at the Democrats' plans, but they're trying to pay for their ideas. And I think that's admirable. Republicans, when they administered this tax cut, it was completely on the deficit. And then Democrats and Republicans got together, and all of their spending bills have been completely deficit financed. Whether you're talking about Warren, Biden, or Sanders, the idea that you're trying to raise revenue to pay for your initiatives is actually important, and it's something that nobody seems to care about anymore in this town.